Welcome back. Today I want to talk all about the freeze response, the many ways that you might see it appear in your meditation, because I talk all the time about heart rate variability resonant breathing. By the way, there's an app. Go on your phone, on your smartphone, and download heart rate variability resonant breathing. Make sure you have that app and you're doing the long breathing every day, because that's going to put pressure. It's going to increase the pressure on the thoracic cavity, and that's going to translate backwards. Just doing the breath. You don't have to understand it. You just do the breath. You do the long breathing, and it's going to put pressure on your dorsal vagal, and that will eventually help to stimulate the freeze response in you, and you'll start encountering these experiences. So you want to be able to notice, oh my God, that's the freeze response. Forrest told me this was gonna come, and here it is in my meditation. This is very, very deep, because the freeze response is Pratyahara. All right? We are accomplishing that step in the six-fold path of yoga. Patanjali talks about an eightfold path. Lahiri Mahashaya used a six-fold path of yoga. So for Lahiri Mahashaya, Pratyahara would be number 3. And in the freeze response, we are accomplishing that. So let's get into it. So we're doing the heart rate variability resonance. We're doing it every day. We're doing that long breathing. It's putting extra pressure on the thoracic cavity. It goes backwards. It stimulates the parasympathetic system, the dorsal vagal. The healing system is getting accentuated. Instead of being in the sympathetic fight or flight all the time, we're cooling down. We're relaxing. And we're getting in touch with that deep healing parasympathetic system. The system we go into every night if we have a good sleep. We go into that and the body starts turning on processes it didn't have during the day because we were too busy. That's right, it starts healing you in the night. That's the job of the parasympathetic system. During the night you wake up. You ever wake up and you feel, oh my goodness, I feel brand new. I feel fantastic. And maybe you only had a short nap. But during that nap, you dipped into that healing parasympathetic system. And you come out and you go, oh my goodness, I feel fabulous. How did this happen? It didn't happen the other night. No, you didn't dip as deep, right? And you just happened to dip in and then wake up right away and you just feel amazing. Because the stomach was not full of food and the brain was not full of food to digest, and you dipped into that beautiful sleep and you had a healing experience in the night. That's the dorsal vagal system. And we want to get in touch with it every single day when we meditate. Now, it's not going to happen immediately, but we can begin to encounter it right away when we start with something that works every single time, which is heart rate variability resonant breathing. Now, the other key to make this work is sitting very still. It's magical. That's why I have the video. Sitting very still is magical. It really is. And we think it's such a minor thing. And we tend to be fidgety in our day, and we're active and we're out and we're doing, and then we have to sit down and don't move. That's right. Sit down, don't move, relax. And usually that's a little bit hard for people, but when you combine the heart rate variability resonance with the sitting very still, the sitting very still gets much, much easier. It will feel more natural. So just, before you begin your meditation, you might tense up and relax, and tense up and relax, or you might just shake yourself out a little bit, just to get the kinks out of yourself. Do some stretching. Do the Maha Mudra stretching, right? On this channel, do that stretching. Get yourself relaxed when you are ready. Get very comfortable. Some yogis, they want to have a very special posture. I want to be like all the pictures of the yogis. I want to look really good and be very straight. But then they're tense. And now you're encountering the sympathetic system. You're using some of that. And a little tiny bit is okay, but not a lot. We want to get away from that. We're very good at that system. We want to get away from that and start encountering the deep parasympathetic system of the dorsal vagal. All right? So that means we've got to combine these two things. The long breathing of heart rate variability resonance and the sitting very still. They come together. And that's how we're going to start to encounter the freeze response. So what is the freeze response? How do we know it's happening? First of all, you might encounter a very deep stillness. That's the first thing you might notice. I just feel incredibly still. I just feel like I really don't want to move. I'm just enjoying being here, right? I really feel very settled and still. That is the freeze response. You're getting into it. This is the beginning of something really blissful. All right? It's really, really good. The freeze response, by the way, in itself is blissful. Okay? So if you're encountering the freeze response, and I told you you're in the freeze response and it doesn't feel blissful, don't worry. It will develop. It will reveal itself and become more and more blissful. Trust me. Now, another sensation like this is what I talk a lot about, and other yogis have told me, oh my goodness, I felt that. So I want to repeat it here. I feel shell-like. So I'll feel like my skin is frozen. Like there's a little bit of resistance there that I don't want to break the edge of my posture. Right? So the skin itself will feel as if it's frozen. It's just a resistance to movement, right? You're so deep into the freeze response that you feel as if your skin, the outside of your body, is a shell, and you really don't want to break it because it feels so good. And inside, you might even notice that there's kind of a swirl to it. There's a movement in the energy, or maybe it's going up and down, or maybe it's just going, just a swirl. But it doesn't really matter. It's the shell. That's the frozen shell of the freeze response, all right? It's really deep, but it's very akin to the same first sensation of just profound stillness. I don't want to move. I feel so good. That's the freeze response. And the normal so we had a posture, we design our posture, which is very, very comfortable to help us let go and get into this and keep doing the stillness so these things will arise inside of us. That's why comfort is paramount, right? We have to be comfortable first, all right? So we can encounter these things. We have to be comfortable in order to encounter these things. We want to prolong our comfortability as long as we can so we get into this freeze response, and you'll notice a huge decrease in your aches and pains. It's like I was achy, this was achy, and then I went into the freeze response, gone. All those aches and pains. And that's the beginning of the bliss and the joy, is that all that achiness, all that burden of the body is beginning to be relieved from me. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's really good. A lot of yogis use this word. It's not my favorite word because it can be misunderstood, okay? And it's numb. But it's a good word because a lot of yogis tell me, I feel numb when I'm meditating. The body begins to feel numb. Now, this is not a lack of circulation. So if your leg falls asleep and because of a lack of circulation, or your arm falls asleep or something, or whatever falls asleep, that is not what I'm talking about, okay? This is different. It's a dimming of the perception of the body. And so if you felt your legs before and it was like this much, you could feel them, and then it goes down, that's a numbing of your perception of that part of your body. So it might be your whole body, or it might be a part of your body. There's a dimming of the perception of it, and that's the numb That's one way it's described. Numb. My legs became numb. My arms became numb. One arm became numb. My face became numb. That dimming of the perception of that certain part of the body. Now, along with that numb, it can dim out all the way. And this idea of dimming is very important to me because when I first started practicing Kriya Yoga, my understanding of what I was reading, what they were telling me, is that one minute you had perception of the body and the next minute you didn't. It was just an on-off switch. And that's not how it works. It's actually a dimmer. Now that's possible, but it's a dimmer switch, usually. So it goes from a lot of perception of your body, a normal perception of your body. It's actually the yogi feels his body more because you're coming in contact with the subconscious, and so you're more aware of the body. So that awareness becomes dimmed out in the freeze response, and so the dimmer goes down, all right? And so as it dims down, parts of the body will dim out completely. So you have, I'm missing an arm. I can't sense my arm. I'm missing my other arm. I'm missing my face, which is the ventral vagal coming up into the face, right? This is a deep relaxation. My face just kind of disappeared. Such a strange thing to say, right? But that's how it will feel inside. Of course, your face didn't disappear. You can put your hands up. Oh, there's my face. Okay, I have a face. And now you've interrupted the freeze response, but at least you know you have a face, right? That's okay. That's a process of meditation. We have to get used to these things, and we have to confirm that they're okay. And you have to let that play out over time. You can't rush that. You don't want to rush that. Or you will, if you rush that, by the way, your whole practice will diminish because of it. Because you're now forcing yourself too far, too fast, and your psychology is not catching up fast enough. So you will find yourself retreating from meditation. You don't want to do that. So you want to make it play out naturally. Just let it be natural. Let it flow. This is a big word to me. Let it flow. All right? So you'll notice parts of the body dim out all the way. My leg is gone. My other leg is gone. My foot is gone. My calf is gone. My thigh is gone. My lower body is gone. I'm just, floating in midair. I've just got a torso and a head, and that's it. My whole body's gone. I'm just a head floating in space. I love that one. It's crazy. I love that one. The whole body's dimmed out. I'm just a head up in space, all right? All of those are the product of the freeze response, this disappearance of part or the whole body. All of that is the freeze response. The next thing you might notice is a stretching of the body. So you might feel like your hips are way down here and your torso is way up here. You've been stretched out. Or maybe your whole body is down here and your head is way up here. You've been stretched out. So that stretching is a dislocation of your internal software of the left brain, which maps the body and sends a signal to the brain that's getting interrupted. It's not working optimally or normally, so we're interrupting the left brain. Hallelujah! That's what we want. We want to interrupt the left brain. So that stretching out is a really deep sign that the meditation is working, and you're losing some of your left brain. Oh my goodness. Hallelujah. Take a break. We'll be right back. Take a break from that personality system we're running night and day. The story we're running night and day. We're taking a break from that, and you notice that the body is stretched out. Now, along with stretched out, you might get dislocation. So the body seems like it's over here, the head feels like it's over here, or the other way around, right? Or, one leg's over here and one arm is over here, or the other way around. Doesn't matter. That's dislocation. So torso, body, torso, head, all of that is dislocation. That is very similar to the stretching out sensation, isn't it? Both of those are freeze response, a interruption of the left brain mapping that your brain is doing all the time, telling you how things are, where things are. You want to make sure your hand is here and not over here on the burner of the stove, right? I got to make sure my hand is here, and your left brain does all of that, thankfully. But we're interrupting it temporarily so we can get a break from this big story we've been running all our lives. Oh my God, this is my favorite. Ghost-like. This is how I describe it. My whole body becomes ghost-like. So here's my whole perception of my body, and it goes down and down and down, and it's just a little bit of a shimmer. It's ghost-like. And now I can return. So I can bring I'm focusing on my meditation. I'm focusing on the long breathing. I'm focusing on the Om Japa. I'm focusing on the tranquility and the bliss that I feel. That's where my concentration is. And so because of all of that and the awakening of the dorsal vagal and the sitting very still, all of my perception of the body, the entire thing, is dimming out. It's become ghost-like. Now I can return. I can bring my focus back to the body, and this will start ratcheting up. But why would I do that? I've been sitting here all this time just so I could become ghost-like. And so the perception of the body, I keep going down, and I keep my mind focused on the tranquility and the bliss and the peace and the long breathing and this beautiful freeze response that's running through my body, right? That's what I'm putting my mind on. And so this becomes ghost-like. The body becomes ghost-like. And I've been using this phrase for a while, and now my yogis are coming back and giving the same one to me. Oh my goodness, this part of my body or that part of my body or my whole body became ghost-like. That's right. That's amazing. Beautifully deep, deep freeze response. Now, because we're getting in touch with the dorsal vagal, we can start to feel sensations along the dorsal vagal. We might feel a cool drip along the spine, which is the dorsal vagal. The dorsal vagal, so here's my spine, and the dorsal vagal lays right up on top of it, and then here's my heart and all my organs in the front of the body, right? So spine, dorsal vagal, all the organs, okay? 1, 2, 3. And so as a yogi, I look inside and I sense these things, and so I say, that's my spine. Right? My perception of the dorsal vagal is it is the spine. So you'll hear yogis all the time and they'll say, it was in my spine like this, it was in my spine like that, this is what I felt in my spine. They're not actually feeling it in the spine, it's actually the dorsal vagal, but it's so close it doesn't really matter to them. It's an internal perception, you see? It's not based on science, it's based on their perception of what they are experiencing. That's why the yogis always talk about their spines. Very important. Spine is very important. These sensations are actually happening in the dorsal vagal. So you might feel that cool drip. It might go up the spine, it might go down the spine, it doesn't really matter. It's blissful, it's very cool and refreshing. You'll feel like, oh wow, I feel really refreshed as this comes up my spine. It's beautiful, absolutely. Along with that cool trickle, it might spread to the whole body, and you'll feel a cool wave come up the body. It might go down the body, that's fine, but it often goes up the body because we're returning to the brain. As we meditate deeply, we come back to the brain. We have a roll-up of consciousness. So you might notice this cool trickle or this cool wave coming through the whole body. That's a whole body sensation, and it's usually extremely blissful, or at least pleasurable, or a tiny bit ecstatic. And so that's the building of bliss, right? It was a tickle, it was ecstatic, oh my God, it was bliss. All of that is bliss. And so it's a progression of how much you can take, how much you can perceive. And as you keep feeling it over and over and over again in your day, what is going to happen? It's going to build automatically. Along with that cool wave, which you could, or cool trickle, you could feel it in part of the spine or the whole spine, part of the body, the whole body. All of that is good. And as it keeps coming, it's washing you out. It's washing you out. This deep freeze response, what's going to happen? You become ghost-like, right? The body dims out profoundly, and you're left with just tranquility and bliss. Hallelujah. We got away from our story. We got out of the left brain. We got out of our preoccupation with this outside world. We took a break. We come and we refresh ourselves at the fountain of healing, the dorsal vagal system, and the bliss which is inherent inside of it. So you might feel that the body is dimming out, and so your perception is going, well, what am I? I was this thing and it's dimming out, so what am I? And so you kind of spread out, and you spread out. And I've labeled this is actually a mini absorption, right? It's a little tiny absorption. You're getting into the right brain. You're expanding, so it's a mini absorption. And you're dimming out, and that cool wave is still going through you, and so you notice that the cool wave, it kind of spreads out. It's not just a wave, it's kind of a cool ocean. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. That's a beautiful freeze response, and it's going into a little bit of absorption. Your brain is looking for what am I, and it just kind of naturally expands out because we've been dimming all of these perceptions of the body. We're not preoccupied with it. I wave my hand, I wave my hand, I wave my hand. This must be me. I am this because I said move and it moved. And then it's gone, and you go, well, your brain starts wondering, well, what am I really? Well, you're not the body, are you? And so you dim out that perception, and the brain automatically, your identification automatically begins to expand. Begins to expand. And that's why I talk about expansion so much. It's so primary. It is deep, deep meditation, that expansion. And so you'll notice that cool wave, or your perception begins to expand in the freeze response. It's very, very deep. We're actually going past the freeze response, but we're still having some of the freeze response, so it's still within some of that realm. Finally, in the very, very deep freeze response, the whole body is gone. We've dim, gone, right? And maybe the whole lower body is gone, and you're just a head. This happened to me quite often for a while. I was just a head floating in empty space. I'm starting to spread out, but I feel kind of boxed up inside of my head for a while. And I wrote to my guru, Ashokji, I'm like, I feel like I'm in the box of the brain. It says that, you know, that I'm feeling the sides of my own skull, it feels like. And he wrote me back, there should be no sides! Just expand! There's no sides! Nothing! So I'm like, okay, so I should let go of that and keep going. And so, but you might feel, you'll go through this time where you're just the head or you're just the skull, and then that will disappear as well. And then you might just be the spiritual eye. You just see some light, and that's all there is, and everything else is completely dimmed out. Now you are very, very deep into sense withdrawal. You are very, very deep into the freeze response. By the way, all of this is completely natural. What happens every night when you go to sleep, you go into the freeze response. Why? But when you're having a dream and you're walking around, or you're running around, or you're kicking, or whatever you're doing, you don't want to fall out of your bed because your body is doing all of that. So the body puts you very kindly into a freeze response every single night. So we encounter the freeze response all the time. As a yogi, we just want to encounter it on purpose every time. That's why we're developing this every single day. The long breathing, sitting very still, will automatically bring forth the freeze response in a little bit of time. So the body is gone, right? The body is gone. And maybe we're just a head, maybe we're just the spiritual eye, maybe we're just tranquility. And now we're getting into the realm where we have a possibility of a full-on absorption or a full-on samadhi. And the definition of the samadhi is that there is no body, there's no perception of the breath. There might be a little breath, but it doesn't matter. Your perception of it is gone. So there's no body. The body's still there, of course, but you're not perceiving it at all. You're gone. It's gone from your brain. It's gone from your perception, right? The breath is gone from your perception. And there's no astral body. We're not talking about an out-of-body experience where you have an astral body. We're talking about something which is a one step farther, where it's just you in one divine idea of the primordial creator or creation, right? You are floating in that one idea as a mind. But that doesn't really say it because it's not like a normal mind. The normal perceptions of the mind have dimmed out almost completely in the first samadhi. Patanjali tells us that there is reasoning and recollection in the first savikalpa samadhi. So you can be sitting inside of nothingness, or you can be sitting inside of spaciousness, and you notice that you are in the center of it. That is the samadhi. No body, no breath, and no astral body. If you perceive any of those, then you're not in that. Now, you can flicker. So you can go into that and then flicker out and notice your body. And then there was nothing, and then come back and there's your body. That's actually samadhi. You are actually entering into the samadhi momentarily and then coming out. Very, very, very deep. And as you continue with these things, that time will lengthen. Very beautiful. Very, very big deal. I think we ran the gamut of all of the possible sensations that you might feel in a freeze response. It's absolutely delicious, and the bliss will come along with it. And now we know what meditation is really all about is to get us into this low idle state. And the definition of that and where we're going is the tranquil breath, the freeze response, and the roll-up of consciousness. So if you really want to get to know those very, very deeply, I really would love you to go ahead and get my first 2 trainings that are on my website, the Tranquil Breath training and the Big Bliss training, because that's going to tell you all about the tranquil breath and the roll-up of consciousness and getting bliss. Very, very important material. Everybody who watches those, they begin to understand and recognize these things inside of themselves, and that's humongous. That's what we want. So I hope this gives you some ideas of how you are encountering the freeze response in your meditation. Keep doing the long breathing. Keep working on the sitting very still. You put those 2 together, and what do you get? Freeze response. Is it going to happen the first time? We don't know. Is it going to happen the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the 6th time? Probably. You're going to start getting that freeze response very, very soon in your meditations when you put those 2 things together successfully. The heart rate variability resonance, that long breathing, and sitting very still. Magic. Just magical. So hope you love this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you.